Hello, very big warm hello to everybody from all around the world. So it could be good morning, good night, good afternoon. How are you going? You've got myself here, Wendy from An Inside Job, and also Alicia on the line.
Hi, good morning from sunny, freezing, cold, wintry Queensland. Nice to be here.
Awesome. Today, Alicia and I, the topic about parenting has been coming up for us lately, and we thought it would be really great to start to put some of our thoughts and conversations into a video for the benefit of others, because we know in this parenting journey and in particular this motherhood journey that we're actually not alone when it comes to the joys, the blessings, the challenges, the struggles, really everything that can go on for somebody when their life completely transforms and they become a mother. With people in the world like Constance Hall, Alicia, who you introduced me to several months ago, and since then she has become quite an internet sensation. Talking about motherhood, and just recently I've come across a couple of other mummies, so to speak, who are blogging and really stepping up and communicating to others so that people actually realise they're not alone.
So what we've decided to cover this morning in our topic, we've chosen, being a mum. I just don't want to do that today. That's the basis for us. And Wendy and I have lots of conversations. For those of you that aren't aware, Wendy has 6 kids and I have 1. Wendy's range from all under 12, I believe. Yes. Yeah. And my son's 14. And, lots of conversations come up, more so with Wendy's 6, because they are so young as well. And there are 6 of them. So hats off to Wendy for that. We've been talking lately about just not wanting to show up in that space. And, some people might think, oh, that's bad parenting. But there are days where, in the past, more so for me, my son's a bit older now, and in the past, there are days where it's just like, you know what? I don't want to show up for you today. I just want to show up for me. And where do you draw the line on that? If you're a mum that has 6 kids or 3 kids and it's just driving you crazy and you just decide, I'm just not doing it today. So we just want to explore that with you today. Absolutely.
And I think the biggest reason for this call was exactly that. It was I don't have the energy right now. I'm a human being too, and I've got my own stuff going on, and I'm a full-time worker, and I'm a friend and a lover and a mother, and reaching your limit. And I think I said to you, Alicia, because we talk about a range of topics, career and business and all of that. And parenting is the one job that you don't give up. Parenting is 24/7. Parenting is, you can't just, start the job and be on 3 months probation and hand that baby back. Like, once you're in it, that is your life. That is your commitment. Obviously this conversation is excluding maybe those that do make other choices. We're not even going to get into that. But essentially for those that are committed to this parenting journey, I guess you and I are going to really hit on the nerves or hit on the points that may make some people, I suppose, lash out and say, how could you say that? You're an irresponsible mother. But the point of this being is that if I feel this way and if you've felt this way, there are going to be others that feel this way. And at An Inside Job, you and I, Alicia, are committed to actually bringing a lot of this to the fore so that the world is a whole lot more of a supportive community rather than one that judges others.
Love that, Wendy. Oh, that was so beautiful. I really love that. And, sometimes I still have those days. My situation's a bit different. My son's dad and I are separated, so my son spends just a little bit more than half time with me. A bit more than just half with me. So I get a couple of extra days in the fortnight. And, I look forward to that downtime. My son, I'll make this very clear, my son is my number 1 priority in life. He is my biggest blessing. And to this point in my life, he's just it. He's my number one. So there's no denying the love that I have for my son, the love that Wendy has for her kids. It's just some days just don't want to do it. It doesn't take away that love. It's just, you know what? I just don't want to play this game today. Yeah. I don't want to play being mum. I actually can't be fucked, really. Do you know, like, I'm sure there are mums that pull their hair out going, I just don't want to do this. I know I have, and I know you do, Wendy.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, for sure. Actually, you touched on something there which I think is probably important for those that are listening in, those that have been following us and already know us, but also for those that don't. So just to pre-frame it a little bit, Alicia has one child, Logan, incredible, amazing young soul. And it's always from the outside looking in, I'm sure, we have a completely different viewpoint on what Alicia's talking about, some of those days where we just don't get it. Myself, I actually have 3 children of my own. Met and fell in love with a man who also has 3 children of his own, and they all happen to be very similar ages. So as Alicia shared, that is how I have 6 children under 12. And I guess for myself in my journey, there's probably a whole range of offshoot topics that we could go into. So, we're not just dealing with our own family and our own family unit. We're dealing with the external parties to that as well. My children's dad, his children's mother, and I suppose all the frustrations that go with actual, I guess you wouldn't say co-parenting, because I wouldn't say we don't really talk about how we parent, but I would say shared parenting, in that, as you, Alicia, we have 6 children, a little bit over 50% of the time as well, which ultimately, I suppose, to put all those other topics to bed for a moment, my partner and I live by the motto of what's best for the children in this situation. Like, when we're dealing with any challenge or any frustration, we always come back to what's best. So not going into all those other topics about blended families and exes and parents and that sort of thing, but really to stay close to the topic, which is actually about me, about you, and about all those other mums out there that, as you say, I just can't be fucked today.
and that's gold. I love that. And I think the F-bomb's okay sometimes. And that's a moment when I think it's great. So when we come to parenting. Awesome. All right. So Wendy, what are some issues that you have around being a parent?
Oh my God. Parent guilt, straight up. So the guilt, I never imagined that I would question so many of my decisions, and then also at times, carry so much guilt. My 3 in particular are all very unique and distinct personalities, and then add on to that another 3 again. And so a whole lot of guilt comes into that. Certainly things like, I guess I never really had anybody to model parenting off. My parents were separated at a very young age, and that wasn't quite a nice situation either. So really the existing beliefs around, well, what does society say a good parent is? What is it to be a good parent? So I was caught up for many years on, am I doing the right thing? And to be honest, the people around me also, unfortunately, weren't the kind of people that said, you know what, Wendy, your children are, they're happy, they're healthy, they're able, no disabilities, that sort of thing, you're doing a good job. So I've had to fumble and find my way through. And actually one thing you said to me earlier, Alicia, was I've been really focusing on this for a good 3 years solid. Since we became a blended family, it's probably really put the spotlight on what is right for me and what is right for my children in terms of that parenting journey. So I think also too, protectiveness, again, questioning decisions. How protective is too protective? We talk about helicopter parents and that sort of thing. So really, I think it's just probably one of the most, people say it's one of the most rewarding jobs. I think it's also one of the most freaking challenging, and it's probably been my biggest development journey, and I have no doubt will continue to be. My God, I'm about to have teenagers in the house. Yeah, so that's what comes up for me. What would you say, for yourself, Alicia? What are some of the issues, or what are some of the things you're aware about in being a parent and the challenges around that?
So I love what you said too, Wendy, and that parent guilt, that is certainly one of mine. It was one of mine, and maybe up until when I recently did my NLP practitioner course down in Byron, I did some work around that space of having parent guilt, and that guilt came from me not being mumsy. So my biggest issue I've found as a parent is that I'm not mumsy. And I beat myself up for that for so many years. I'm not, and have never been, the kind of mum to sit down for hours on end playing Play-Doh or playing Lego. My son had all of that. He was really independent and he was brought up that way. So, I was always around with him while he was doing those things. I just chose not to always take part in those. And the biggest issue I found as a mum for me was being okay with the fact that I'm not the typical mumsy mum. One of my other friends, man, she's amazing. She bakes on Sundays. She does so much with her kids. They have their dinner at a certain time. They do so many sports. Her life is her kids. And for me, I look at that and I think, man, she's freaking amazing. It just doesn't fit for me. I don't bake. I don't think I've ever baked. My son plays sport. He plays soccer. He's an amazing soccer player. But I'm not the soccer mum. I don't go hang out with all the other mums and chat, and I'm just not mumsy. My son he's one of my best mates. We have that knockabout relationship most of the time. So definitely that is my number one, and then the parent guilt. So again, when I went down to Byron, I did some work around that in the NLP space to be able to release that parent guilt, because I remember when Logan was growing up, from I don't know what age, but really, really early, I'd go to bed at night. And Wendy, I'm not sure if you did this. I know other parents have done this. I think maybe nearly all parents do this. I used to go to bed and lay there feeling so guilty about what I hadn't done in the day. Tomorrow I'm going to play more Lego, and tomorrow I'm going to take him to the park for longer, or tomorrow I'm going to do this. And I'd go to bed feeling sick because I just felt like I wasn't good enough as a mom. It was really nice to do some work in that space and to let that go.
I love that. I completely resonate with the mumsy, and I think that ties into that whole society. If you are looking at your friends and how they're parenting, and you're thinking, oh geez, I don't bake, or I don't use natural cleaning products and that sort of thing. I think that's I really resonate with that. And certainly I think the guilt comes in many forms. If you feel like you could have had a conversation differently, if you made a decision and denied them or granted them something and then thought differently about it. And I think with the mumsy thing too, one thing I remember, and I think it was from, actually there's 2 points I'd like to make here. So with mumsy, finding your joy. One of the things that I had to do early on in my I suppose, development journey was, I'm not sure who said it to me now, but they said, Wendy, try to find your joy in the parenting. Find what it is that makes you happy. And I think I still use that question today. And the second point that I wanted to talk about there, Alicia, is you said in my NLP course, I did some work around that. So, for those that are listening and for those that are going, yes, I'm struggling, or, yes, I've felt the same. And you haven't necessarily sought out help. It's not to say you need help, but to know that there are certainly things that you actually can do to, I suppose, own it.
Yeah, agreed. Absolutely. And if you want to step up into that space and explore that more, there are so many options. I started with a life coach. I've worked in the body consciousness space, both amazing modality, NLP. There's so much help out there if you would like to chat. And you know what? You don't need to change you. That's one thing that I've learned. Moving into understanding. Let's move into understanding, Wendy. You don't need to change you. You are not wrong. You are not a bad parent. You are not incompetent. unless you are doing bad things to your kids, like, that's a whole different ball game. If you are if you're behaving really shitty, then that's a whole other ball game. We're talking about your general parenting stuff and the guilt that's around that, and beating yourself up and not feeling good enough. So let it go. You are amazing, and your kids love you. I think, and you love them. So work with what you've got, not what society says you need to work with. Wendy and I had this conversation the other day, and Wendy, what did I say to you about that with society and who says?
I was struggling with, actually, I'll just go into the story a little bit. So my partner works weekends and nights, and when the relationship was new and early, I'm like, yeah, great, you go off to work, honey, I love you, and I'll look after all the kids. And I failed to remember that I also need to nurture self. It's just in my makeup. It's just who I am. I failed to, I suppose, remember my boundaries and what works for me. And I got to that point of burnout in terms of being home all weekend with 6 kids on my own, and 6, I said my 3 have got very different personalities. My partner's 3 are extremely different again, and many varied and several needs, including some very mild, I suppose, social disabilities in there. And I, said to you, Alicia, maybe as much as I love and adore this man, and there's no doubt in my heart or mind that he is my person, maybe I need to, society says I should be looking after his children, but I just can't cope. I can't cope with 6 on my own. I'm not coping. I'm struggling. I don't think I can do it, and that wouldn't be the right thing to do. To say to him, I can't look after your children when you go to work. And you just turned around and you said to me, who says? Who says you have to look after all 6 kids on your own? Who says you have to do that? And that completely shifted my paradigm on that topic completely, because all of a sudden permission came in, and I'm like, well, actually, yeah, you're right. And then you went even further, Alicia, if I remember correctly, and you're like, what works for you? If you two love and adore each other, which we absolutely do, well, then what works for you two? And what's going to be best for the kids in this? I'm pretty sure the kids aren't going to want to hang around with somebody who's just thinking, wow, I'm like drowning amongst children and needs and care, and not to mention the regular weekend outings. Like, how do you be in 6 different places at once? I don't know. But I'm sure people do it. And you know what? Hats off to those people with massive families who just do it with grace and ease. I just admire you. But what works for me?
Great.
What works for me?
Love that, Wendy. And that's a really big one. Just touched on that before. Wendy's just touched on that further. It's what works for you. It's not about what your neighbor does. It's not about what your best friend does. It's not about what your mum does or anyone else says. It's what works for you. And that may be a little bit of an interesting concept to start with. If it works for you to, excuse me, I just lost my phone there for a second. I don't know what happened on your end, but mine went a bit funny. If it works for you to have, I said to Wendy the other day, do you know what? It might mean on weekends that you get a nanny for a few hours that takes the kids out, and they take the kids to the park for a bit. Doesn't mean you don't take them later or you don't spend time with them. It's just, if you need some time to yourself, that's okay. Like, what works for you? We don't have to lose ourselves when we become parents. And I think with society, I don't know, in the past it's been that way, you kind of lose your own identity. And I feel one of the things that I've worked on, and it's something that Wendy and I talk about a lot, is maintaining your own identity, being in your own truth of what it is that you want as a parent. It's about you too. And something there that that we've talked about as well is that it's my son's journey too. He's got his own journey to go through with whatever is happening in our household. It's not just about me, it's his journey. So I allow him a space to have his journey as well. So let's shift gears into the understanding of, what understanding have you come to, Wendy, about this whole motherhood thing?
Definitely owning it. just giving myself permission, and permission, exactly as you just wrapped up with then. This is our journey. Yes, they are happy, yes, they are fed, yes, they are well. Even if that's the best thing I can do in the day, is just make sure that they've all had a good feed and they're clean and they're happy when they go to bed. All the other stuff is just noise. I should have taken them to the park, or I shouldn't have got cranky when they spilt the milk on my brand new clean floor, or all of that. Really, a lot of that is just noise, and ultimately, again, just owning your the way you are and embracing that. And knowing that they're going to grow up with their own thoughts and beliefs and feelings and experiences as well. So that's probably the biggest thing. And giving yourself credit. I never, ever gave myself enough credit. I wrote it in one of the blogs that in my pregnancies, I worked right up until 39 weeks pregnant. And I look back on that and go, what was the driver behind that? Was it financial reasons? Was it because I wanted to, which is probably more so the case, because I wanted to, because I felt well. But I never gave myself enough credit. And, because of that too, I think because I wasn't giving myself enough credit, neither was my ex-husband either. I don't think he was looking at me and going, wow, woman, you're doing a great job. So I've really had to learn to give that credit to myself, because I can't wait around for others to do that. But fortunately, as my journey has transformed into this very big, bubbly, blended family, it is having those people that have witnessed my journey who do say to me, you're doing a great job. That actually does mean the world. I mean, I don't rely on it, but it does move me a little bit to tears when I hear it from certain people, because it does sort of pull me back and go, hang on, Wendy, you are actually doing a great job. And that wouldn't matter whether you had 1, 6, 12. I think, that's still a really lovely observation from others who do know you well.
Nice. Love that. Love this space. So from my perspective, my understanding around parenthood is, I was 22 when I fell pregnant with my son, and I didn't expect to have kids at that age. It wasn't in my path. And when I fell pregnant with Logan, I just knew, that that he was meant to come to me. There was something in me that just said, yeah, the time's right there. And I didn't understand it. I didn't get it. Again, it wasn't something that I was thinking about. It just happened. And there came a point when Logan was 1. So I didn't have my family around a lot supporting. And I mean, they're great. They're awesome. My family are amazing. It just wasn't, and also maybe not their thing either, to be the grandparents that look after the kids all the time or whatever else. That's their life. So whatever they choose to do, that's fine as well. I just didn't have that full on support. So it was me at home, and Logan was full on. He used to wake up, I kid you not, I swear in his life, 8 times a night. On average, it was 8 times a night, and I was breastfeeding and I was comfort feeding, and I ended up sleeping in a spare room, and just so I could roll over in the middle of the night and feed him, so I didn't have to get up. I was exhausted. And Logan's dad was always working, and we didn't really connect either, Logan's dad and I, and he wasn't in that space of really embracing being a dad. It took him until Logan was about 2, because it wasn't something he'd expected either, to be a dad at that age, at his age. So it came a point where I accidentally, is anything an accident, fell pregnant when Logan was 1. And this is something that could be taken any way, and I'm really careful in this space, because I know there are some people that aren't blessed to have children. So I say this with lots of love and honesty in this space. I chose to have an abortion. I chose when Logan was 1 to have an abortion, because I didn't know how the heck I would cope with a second child when it was just me. And at 23, when you're told you're going to have another child, and you just don't know what to do in that space, like, that decision was really tough for me. So I guess when it comes to the understanding part, I understood that 1 child was enough for me. that my boundaries, my limitations were at one child at that point in time. So that's been one of my biggest understandings in this space of being a parent, my limitations and my boundaries. Another understanding for me is that other mums feel this way too. You know, they don't feel exactly the same as me because we're all individuals, yet they have similar feelings. So when we get chatting to mums that are actually open to talk about this stuff and to go deep into it, just like Wendy and I have, just like other friends and I have, and Wendy and other friends as well, you know, mums feel this way. They feel like they can't do it. They beat themselves up. They feel hopeless. They feel like they just want to walk away, pack their suitcase and go sip pina coladas on an island and stay there for 6 months. You know, women feel this way. And I think it's really important that, you know, we nurture that space between women, we band together and we support each other. So, yeah, that's my understanding.
So, Alicia, very raw, very real and very honest. And I think it's really important that we support you and accept, you know, what you've shared with us. Having known you and knowing a little bit more about that situation, it really is a beautiful and a sensitive journey as well for you. So thank you for being so raw and honest, because again, no, you're not alone for a myriad of reasons and a myriad of circumstances. So you're not alone in that space. And I know that you still carry that in your heart to this day. So thank you. That's really moving. And I really don't want to overshadow that, but sort of in the essence of moving on, and for those that are listening and hopefully getting something out of this, it really is okay. You really are doing a great job. And if you're really struggling in that space, do reach out, do seek support, whether you start with a friend or a family member. Push that ego aside and do reach out. Or, you know, there's platforms like the services that Alicia and I offer, where maybe you might like to go through a journey of understanding more about yourself and how all this fits into place for you. You know, as Alicia and I have touched on, there's that awareness, you know, what's going on for me right now? Why is this a trigger? The understanding, you know, what is my realization in this? Okay, so maybe I'm not a mumsy mum. Okay, so that's why it feels so that's why I'm feeling so much resistance in this. That's why I'm struggling from time to time. And then really giving yourself enough permission and credit, as we've touched on through this conversation today. One thing as a shared parenter that I can absolutely promise, we might want to go sip pina coladas. It sounds really exotic to be on a really warm island with servants and really healthy, delicious meals and yummy cocktails and maybe yoga classes. But the truth of it is, my partner and I have one kid-free night in the middle of the week, and sometimes we feel really lost. Sometimes we're really missing them, and it's really maybe a 24-hour stint that we don't have those children. But yeah, sometimes we do walk around the house going, well, this sucks. So what I do know is, you know, sometimes we do say words, but the truth is, and I'm so glad you opened this with Alicia, you know, your boy, my children, they are my reason why I do get up and push so hard. They are my reason for my job and my business and everything that I do. And, you know, there's a real sense of purpose there. And I guess the rewarding part is seeing these little individuals form their own lives and their own journeys. And, you know, hoping that the basics that we've given them, the manners and the respect and the love and the self-love, really help them to grow into self-assured and, well, they're our future, actually. They're our future. Our world is in their hands. So let's raise good ones.
And I'll second that, and I'll back what you said too, Wendy. You know, none of this topic means that our kids aren't our number one. And I love that I have one child because, you know, he's spoiled rotten. You know, it means that with one child, I can, we have our one-to-one time. We are about to get started again with our date night. Well, what's a fortnight? You know, I'll give my son the budget for the night. He'll choose where we're going. So, you know, maybe $100 for the night. He might choose bowling, a movie and dinner, or it might be $20 for the night. We might have fish and chips down the beach. So whatever it is at that time, you know, we're spending that time together. That I get more one-on-one time because I only have one child. For birthdays, it's, you know, make big deals of that with my son. We go for the last 2 years, you know, I take him away. Next birthday, we're going to Dubai. So as a parent, the focus for me there is that quality time with him, and I'm able to have that and do that. Doesn't change the fact that I'm a normal human being that sometimes wants to sit on that island with the pina coladas. So you want to join me there? I'm happy to join you there.
I love that. I'm going to steal that idea too, by the way, just to sidetrack for a moment, that, you know, letting them choose, you know, hey, here's a budget. What would you like to do? Because as you said, this is their journey too. We might realize things about them that, you know, we just didn't know. So love that.
Yeah, I love that too. And that gives them the independence to have their own life. You know, give them some choices as well. Sometimes we're so busy making all the choices or feeling like we have to make all the choices that we forget that this is their life as well. So I like to finish up with, from my end, about the permission part and owning it. One of the greatest things that I've ever been given was from my dad. And he said to me, we don't own our children, we're just here to guide them. And he told me that many, many years ago, and I took that on board. And it's like, you know what? I'm not the boss of my son. My opinion doesn't have to be my child's opinion. My son has been raised in such a way that, you know, in the way that I choose to parent, in the way that I choose to be a mum, he can come to the table at any point in time, metaphorically speaking table. He can come to the table at any time with anything. Do you know, it may be drugs, it may be conversations about sex, anything, you name it. Like, nothing is off limits on our table. Doesn't mean that he's out having sex or taking drugs, by the way. I'll just be clear on that. But if he's got questions or curiosity, he's got an open space to ask me questions. He's got an open space to say to me, Mum, I don't agree with what you're saying. That's not right to me. And we'll talk about that. Just by taking that pressure off me that I don't own him, that I don't have to mold him to be a mini me, that he can have his own opinions, his own entitlements, his own joy in life. Like, that just, I don't know, that just gave me something else from the parenting front that just gave me some relief, I guess, or gave me some peace of mind. That was pretty cool for me.
Yeah, I love your dad's wisdoms. He comes into play a lot with the work that we do in an inside job. And I have to completely agree with you. And for me, really, it's quite simply these little guys and girls, they're our teachers too. They can teach us so much, and they're in this with us. So yeah.
Till next time. Thanks for joining us on the call today. We will catch up and chat with you next Wednesday. So Wendy and I are going to make this a regular. We will be doing a call every Wednesday. Sometimes they'll be live, sometimes they'll be pre-recorded. So we look forward to sharing more and hearing from you also. Please send us a message. If you've got a topic that you'd like us to discuss, flick us a message. Get on board too. This is not just about us. This is about you.
Definitely. Absolutely. See you next time.